Welcome everyone to Que Madre. We are so excited to have Jen Benitez here and our co-hostess Rita Casaverde, who is filling in for Siobhan Hoover while she's getting all healed up from her surgery. Jen, I've known for a few years now, and I want to start with a little intro on her. So she identifies as a healer and unearthed her indigenous name Gat Kawan Pastol, which means shepherd of the flock, in 2023 naming ceremony led by Apu Adman. Jen Benitez has been called forth as first generation ancestral and sound healer under Diwata Sa Kagubatan. She comes from a lineage of midwives, albularyos, which are herbalists, and manghihilots, which are high priestesses or shamans. On her paternal side, from Alaminos, Pangasinan, Philippines. Her work is at the intersection of sacred art, adornment, and ancestral remembering. She began her healing journey over 10 years ago through sound and meditation, which then inspired her to share her gifts with her community. She began her own practice in 2019 called UMAKYAT Sound and Energy Healing, facilitating women's circles and offering one-on-ones with sound healing sessions. Jen is also founder and executive director of Filipina creative nonprofit PINAYSPHERE, where she aims to amplify teens and young adult creative voices using decolonial frameworks. So I have benefited from her healing circles, and I can say like that the healing is real. And I just am so honored to have you on the show and
Thank you.
for you to be able to share your gifts.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for asking me to join. Yeah, I'm happy to have this conversation.
So what brought you to this work? I know it's in your lineage, but where did you feel it first? I would say.
Um, I feel like it wasn't just very straightforward of like, let me do this healing work. I think it started with my motherhood. I think when I became a mother, that's when a lot of things felt really non-negotiable. Like my nervous system was out of whack. I was going through depression, anxiety, postpartum. And I really felt like I needed to grab hold of the reins in some way and find a way to get more grounded. And at the time that I did feel that in my body, where it just became a repeating pattern. I think it was also getting my undergrad at the same time. I was in my 30s. Felt like I was a new mom again because I did have my youngest when I was 20. And so then with my second child into my third, that's when like a lot of things just started hitting me in a different way. So I think it was in collaboration with school and then motherhood that brought me to realize they kind of go hand in hand and they kind of inform one another in that way.
And
So
Jen,
yeah.
how did that feel in your early years, like in your childhood? Because to have, to come from a legacy and generations of healers, um, in a society like like the one we live in, like how did that work for you personally? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I love this question, Rita. I think a lot of it had to do with like I first felt it in my body. I felt the grief and I felt the disconnect, especially because I was here in the US and my family, a lot of, the motherland is in the Philippines, right? And so I think holding it in my body in a way where I felt I internalized it a lot, and I think with the healing work and understanding how the nervous system worked, I realized that a lot of that grief and a lot of my anxiety came from external factors, and so it helped me in a way where I was able to name a lot of those things after a while, but I did hold grief in the body for a long time, and I didn't know what that was. I just thought that um, there was like a lot of self-ridicule, and a lot of just self-shame and judgment, and to the point where I was like, is this just is this just me? Is this just something that I'm carrying, because my brothers walked in a different way, right? And so I think understanding as a woman of color, understanding us being, immigrants here in the US, a lot of those things started to really come together.
Yeah, I can see how a lot of people, especially immigrants, first generations, and on and generations after that too, can relate to that feeling of not knowing what is it that your body is reacting to when everyone else seemingly is, dealing with everything so perfectly fine, but you're holding like, a multitude and like multi-generational, um, not just culture, but a sense of being identity that cannot be expressed out. And it, like you don't have an outlet for it. That can be a lot, I feel like.
Yeah, and I felt like as a young child of immigrants, it was like I already knew a lot of my ancestral story. I felt like it was always in my art. Like I was already transmuting it in a way where I look back and I'm like, damn, like I was really tapped into that. I just didn't have parents who understood it, right? Because of the colonization. So I would, and even, when I did start decolonizing in like 2015, 2016, I was having conversations about um my grandmother's hilot practice and how that happened, and my great grandfather, and the shame around it. I was shocked because this was the first time I was having these conversations, like my uncle, my father, they were all just like, yeah, like don't believe in that stuff though, like you're asking for these questions but don't believe in it, and don't even, it doesn't work. But growing up, like I went to her. She would put herbs, she would put ginger, she would heat it up and put it on my sprained ankles. She would put herbs on my stomach. Like it was a real practice that I experienced, firsthand. And so my body remembers that as I was going through my decolonial work. And that's what made the full circle for me. I was just like, I had the rudest awakening. I was like, shut up. That's what that was as a child. That's where a lot of my grief came from, and why a lot of my art was very dark. And like I would use negatives of film, right? And I would like paint broken hearts around it, scratch it, but a lot of my art was in that context, not
Mm,
realizing I was processing my own grief in that way.
mm,
Yeah.
There
yeah.
is so much grief, and sometimes you don't realize that you're holding it. Like, I don't mean to like bring Bad Bunny into this conversation,
No, do
like
it. It's relevant.
in a
Do it. Let's do it.
but
Let's do it.
the I have not been able to stop watching that performance. Like I've literally been watching it over and over again because I've been feeling something heavy on my heart. Like it's weird. There's joy, but all of the different things that he shows about like what was done to Puerto Rico, the island, and um like I could feel this heaviness in my heart. So I watched it right before I came here and I started bawling, like crying, crying, crying. And but it was a mix. It was like a very bittersweet cry because it's like that realization of the colonization, but also we are still here,
Right.
and like we're joyful and we're brown and we're, like all
Yeah.
these variations of beauty and skin color and, round booties and like our dark
Yes.
hair,
Mhm.
um, and I'm just like, that is so powerful. Like that grief is there, but like it's shifting. We are transforming the world with our presence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and with our work, right? And it's like that commitment. And I think, yeah, Bad Bunny's performance has given so many of us the permission, right? That we are doing the work, but also it's a nod of like, no, like this is where it's going, and we're gonna do it in the biggest platform and the most streamed event in the world, and we're doing it unapologetically. We're doing it how we want it on our own terms, and I think that, I mean, I just had a meeting earlier this morning about climate and There are lots of policymakers in the room, and like I'm talking about what's the decolonial lens to this work, right? And I think we are being we're in a position, a platform at a time where we can launch that work like so much ahead. And I think Jen, your knowledge of healing, I really want to learn, I want to hear more, learn more, go deep into it because I'm also grew up, I'm originally from Peru, and I grew up with um women who would come to our home and be those healers too. And anytime that I try to explain it to people here in the US that we're not born under that type of culture and tradition, it's like I'm coming from Mars, right? Explaining what animals and plants how they help us in our healing, and it's just so weird to them. But like, how has that experience been to you practicing, your traditions here in the United States?
It was not easy. Like I really had to find the people who I felt like were speaking my language, but where I couldn't articulate it yet. So I think I grew up in the 90s where like hip hop was like we got like good hip hop, you know. We got some good hip hop. So I feel like, and I was talking about this to my oldest, you know, because she's in her spiritual journey and trying to understand herself in this way. And I think when the my focal and my frame of reference was always like hip hop. I know a lot of amazing Pinays and amazing just women of color who have become from like MCs to healers. And it makes so much sense because I feel like a lot of the music I was listening to were all like prayers or spells that were talking about this ancestral work, this decolonial work in a way that is now just, you know, alchemizing into something different. Now we're like really, really tapping in deeper with, you know, like who are my ancestors. And I think also, you know, when I was trying to figure out the work, a lot of our work was fragmented. There weren't really any scholars, there weren't any Pinay professors out yet. And so a lot of like we had Jose Rizal, you know, and a few people that were out. And so when I was in my undergrad, I had a Pinay professor who just like really empowered me in a way that I've never witnessed, you know, because growing up, like I never got good grades. Like I did everything bad you can think of. Okay. Like I was ditching school. I like was nominated for class ditcher, like all the things, right? But then also it's like on the other side of that, it was just like I didn't like what I was learning. Like I felt like I was already disrupting my spaces in a way that like I didn't understand. But then now I'm like, I didn't like now I understand I have an understanding of my kids learning, like when my kids don't want to go to school and I'm like, what are you learning? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And so
Hmm.
there's that compassion there, but I think it was this journey of really understanding like what were the stories being told as I was feeling all of these things and what was I really anchoring myself in. And that opened up portals to people and spaces and um things in my work, like my art, my healing, the circles that I would create. Those all just started to inform one another in a way where I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but it makes sense for me and I'm just going to do it. And that really fed it and that amplified the journey within itself. Um, and I always shout out my professor, Julianne Gavino, because I had two professors. Okay. I had one that was a very colonized version, and then her who was just like, I was like, she's the only one who I felt like was feeding me in a way. This ties back into my story about how I wasn't getting good grades, how I wasn't good in school. But she just uplifted me in a way. Like when she was talking to me after class, I was just like, oh my God, she's gonna talk to me about my essay and how it wasn't good and all the things. And she was just like, no, I think you have a chance here. Like I think everything that you're speaking of, like I totally understand. And I love what you're talking about, because I was talking about my grandmother. I was talking about you know, her practices. you know, she really just like fed into me in a way that no other professor did. And when I had the idea of PINAYSPHERE, which we can get into later, but when I had the idea of PINAYSPHERE, the nonprofit that I created, it it was her who helped me plant it, really. She was like, this sounds amazing and you should do it. And you should read about Dr. Lenny, you should read about, you know, Virgil Apostle, you should read about all these different scholars and just immerse yourself in it. And when I did, it was like one thing after another. My dreams were so potent, like a
Mhm.
lot of things just started to open up for me in that way, and it just, it was beautiful. I have it in my journal, and I look back at it when I was in the beginning stages, and I just remember like so many omens, like so many plants and animal, like there's a hummingbird sitting right there like listening to our
Yes.
freaking story. Like it's insane, the alignment in a lot of things, you know. Yeah.
I've been staring at that hummingbird and
I
seeing
was like,
answer that question.
when it landed, I was like, came to listen. I got you.
I know, and it's such a loss that we have gotten so I mean the world in general, but not those that are still culture bearers and or indigenous communities, but like here in the US that as an immigrant, like it's just such a loss, the amount of um connection that we have with like, you know, our environment, like nature, natural elements, and just how many messages we're missing from that disconnection, right? It's from like
Absolutely.
small messages of that I 100% believe in to like really big messages of where, you know, what's happening to our earth. Yeah, and I know, and Rosa, you have so much work also and experience on, you know, environmentalist work, and I just I'm loving all of this. I'm just like
Me too.
absorbing it all.
Well, for me, I think the biggest travesty of Western environmentalism is that it treats people as though we're separate from the environment. And that's how we're able to tolerate so much injustice. And when you remember that we're actually part of the environment, then you realize that no, we can't let harm be done to each other, whether it's a plantita or whether it's an animal or whether it's a fellow human being. We're all one. And once you realize that, you live life differently.
Right. Yeah. And then you have to, as a mother, Jen, you were saying like you now have are like able to see that on your kids. And I know Ana Rosa, you also have a kid that is like older, and you know, I have only have a 4-year-old and a 7-month old. Like I'm getting there with my 4-year-old, but I'm not there yet where he's gonna have his own journey and, you know, intellectualize that. But I would love to hear more about like what that process is looking like for, because I know a lot of moms that are going to be, and parents in general that are listening to this, that are understanding, oh, that's what's happening with my kid. That's the process that they're going through. Like now you have to process for yourself, you have to process for your children as well.
Yeah. I feel like the healing work is really the priority when, you know, they have that saying of just like self-love is the start of all of it, and you know, really being rooted in that first and foremost, and then everything else around you kind of falls into play, um, is so true, especially in my experience, because I feel like if I didn't go through, I did clinical therapy for 4 years, and then and then my husband and I did couples therapy. But one that really helped me was when I did sound and meditation practice. That's when it really brought everything together for me. I think because of my anxiety, it was like I needed to talk it out, but then I also needed to energetically release it from the body. And that allowed me to come from a reactive state to a more responsive one. So that way, when I did speak to my children, especially if it was a day where I was like, I'm just gonna lose my shit today, and I'm just gonna say it in a way where it's coming out, you know, but then also knowing how to come back to love and being like, you know what? it's the repair phase, and also knowing that we can teach each other how to recover from something like that, and also let them know like the humanness in all of it. Because I
Mm,
think like I'm a perfectionist at heart. Like my father, like he was always one of those people, Libra sun. And so there's always that insecurity of like, gosh, like they're gonna grow up just like having to go so much therapy. But then now starting to realize like, no, as we're doing the work together and they start to understand like we are still human, we are still practicing, we are still trying to figure this out together. Um, they feel safe in that. And so we have these conversations often where it's like, hey, I noticed, your mood earlier, and like what was that about? And we have these conversations regularly. But if I feel like um if I didn't have the order of how I came came to motherhood with, like if I didn't go through my healing journey first and really prioritize that, um it would be really difficult for me to connect with my children. There would be a huge disconnect because then like everything gets put on them. There's like and like I grew up in that way. Like my in my household it was like very verbally abusive, and I held that in my body. And it was like, and like I've learned how to not only look at that through healed lens, but also to see um how I can teach my children, like how we're not to speak to one another, and how we are here to help one another. I can teach, I can see where the lessons are. And same with my husband. My husband comes in and it's like a trade-off, like he'll see like I'm like on edge with a lot of things, a lot of projects, and he'll step in. And we have like this beautiful partnership where we both have that understanding, and I think we both prioritized healing around the same time too. So that was
Mhm.
really beautiful. Like it wasn't like my husband came in like just doing all this work. Like we did it together, so that was also really, really beautiful and a blessing within itself. I'm just like really grateful for that. So that that helped my children a lot. It helps us, not to say that it's super perfect, but also I think I've taken my responsibility as a mother to make sure that my children do feel safe enough to share like all the ugliness and their phases of like teen life and everything in between that. I have a tween, a teen, and then I have a young adult. So
oh wow.
yeah,
Wow, wow. You have a lot of years of practice now.
I do, yes. And it's not easy. It's been a long journey, but it's so worth it when you can constantly keep chipping at it.
And how do you manage all the various projects that you have with having three kids? Because I know PINAYSPHERE is expanding.
Yeah.
It feels like every few months I see another PINAYSPHERE, like New York pop up, and PINAYSPHERE, like here and there. So yeah, it's a lot.
Well, my father was like, he was so good with time. I have to say that. So I give a lot of credit to him. He was so good with time. And the way, like my upbringing around that um, helped me move and navigate through a lot of different projects in a way where I'm able to. So like I'm like really, I try to be really organized. I don't know if like people on my Pinaysphere team will say that, but I try my best to be organized. Um, and also too, I think yeah, it's like it's a balancing act and also a trade-off. Like I think like I'm not always like 100% in mom mode or 100% in like ED or healer. Like it really is like per season, so everything isn't really coming together all at once. Of course, full-time mom, but a lot of times with my healing work with PINAYSPHERE, I plug it in where I'm able to maximize my time in that season. So you wouldn't see me going super hard with UMAKYAT and then also at the same time as PINAYSPHERE. Like we have Philam Fiesta for October. From now until then, I'm like leaning on community, figuring out how I can delegate. And so that has brought a lot of ease for me. And also I do experience burnout here and there, but I think again, because of my foundation, it's allowed me to set the boundary of like, okay, like that's gonna burn me out, you know? And I have strict boundaries on like working on the weekends and my evenings. Like if I have to, I will kind of do a little bit of that, but for the most part, like I do set really, really strong boundaries. Like if someone's texting me at 6 a.m., I'm like, please don't do that. I don't
Right.
work that early, okay? I work office hours, even though I'm an entrepreneur, I work office hours and I also don't negotiate my weekends. So yeah, it's really having strict boundaries and also just like knowing that it is going to be a trade-off. Like it's not going to be perfect at all. You're not going to get all the things. I do cancel on some projects where I'm like, okay, I think I bought more, I bit more than I can chew. I'm going to cancel these things. And that's
Mm.
all right. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to be better about setting boundaries too, and sometimes I do it for my friends too. Like the other day, I saw that Rita pulled an all-nighter, and I was like, "Why are you having this meeting on Friday that is supposed to be a day off anyway? Because we're in solidarity with the National General Strike. Like you should really just take it off."
Yeah, I know. I know. It's so hard, right?
the
Because
trade-off. Yeah.
yeah, it's because it's like we gotta do the work. Like this is the time to do the work. Like this is the
Yeah.
time to we're going through so much change that this is the time to educate, this is the time to advocate, but you're right, like it'll be the time tomorrow too. You know?
Yeah. And I think like when I was young in my 20s, like I was pulling the all-nighters all day. But I think when you do become a mother and you are like, I'm 43, it's like you have to see where you're about to your body's gonna sit you down, or something's gonna blow up in your face, like if you spread yourself too thin. So and I've experienced that too many times. And so, you start to refine and you start to see like what are some of the things that you can make sure you stand firm on. But I remember in my 20s, like I was just like organizing everywhere every day. I'm just like, who cares? This work is so important. But it's like, yeah, like how are you going to do the work if you're burnt out?
Right.
You can't
Right.
see clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I'm so lucky, I think, as we all age, like I've been able to tell like what my body can do, like I'm not all there yet, but like energy, especially with a 7 month old, like when I get it, right? When
Mhm.
most of the time I don't have it, so that's why I get to appreciate it more. But I didn't have that in my 20s where I was able to even think about the amount of energy I had because I had so much of it, right? But that is like, I think that connection to your own body too, and recognizing like how you work and how you build and what gives you energy, what takes energy out, right? I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the last couple of years, it's been more clear what just takes energy out of me. And I'm starting to be one of those that cancel meetings. I'm like, I know I don't have the
I
right
know it's hard.
energy to have this meeting. And I'm gonna have to put a lot of energy and just say no to those spaces where I know this is not gonna serve me at all, right? So yeah, canceling is good. Canceling is good.
It's
It's
healing.
redirecting, right?
Self-love.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't want me in a space where I'm tired and like spread too thin, right? Like
Exactly.
you don't want to work with me those days.
Yeah. They're gonna be like, Rita's acting different today. What's going on?
I know. I know. What happened? She didn't smile. I know. But Jen, tell us more about PINAYSPHERE because I've heard it through contacts. I've heard a little bit about it through contacts here in San Luis Obispo County, but I want to learn more. Like how did you? I know you had a conversation with a professor, but like tell us more about it. How it started, where you are right now.
Yeah. Before the conversation with my professor, I did start doing a lot of the ancestral work. I remember this reading of like from another healer, from another woman of color who was just like, you need to create an altar. You need to create an altar. Do you create in front of your altar? all just started telling me all these things. And then I also want to shout out an amazing healer, activist and artist, JL creator, Jenna Lynn, who did a lot of work with Babaylan studies. And I think her work really helped me embody a lot of my practices in a way where it was just like a clear channel to my Filipino ancestors. And I think that was what really started to create the connection between decolonialism and healing work. Because I would, like I said previously, like I was just having all these dreams. Like my grandfather came into my dream. I like hopped on this bunga boat and we were on the ocean and literally felt like Moana, where it was just like we were voyagers, like that kind of vibe. It was just really interesting. I'm just like, that was my great grandfather. Like I woke up in the morning and I knew immediately. And so I was having dreams like that, where it was just like revelations after revelations. And then I was documenting them in my journal. And then when I had that reading, I was just like, okay, it needs to be practiced in a way where I'm doing things right. And I remember JL, where she was teaching these classes online where we were going to create our dambana and create our altar where our ancestors did, and how we're going to be honoring in a way where like it was just really connected to my roots. And that was when the ideas started kind of brewing, like where I was like, gosh, like the journey that I went through, holding a lot of grief in my body about my grandmother and not being able to practice any of these things. And then me using art as an expression, like they were all the same language, right? But it was just like, it was all the same. It was different languages, but the same message, I guess. And so I was finding the connection between all of those things. And I was like, I need to teach this to like youth and to younger people, because like how beautiful would it be if they understood this, or if somebody understood this and was able to guide them and they could really tap into this, right? Because I was just like, yeah, like it wouldn't be as heavy as how I experienced it. I think that's like what a lot of people go through when they see a vision, when there's like absence and then they see a vision, is like, I don't want somebody to feel that. Like I have a friend who went through cancer, so she created this amazing women's cancer foundation. And it's just like, through that feeling of like, gosh, like I don't like that I went through that feeling alone. And how can I create a platform where we can all kind of do this together, right? And do it in a way where it's not so heavy, like it's in community. We do it through art, whatever comes through the art. We can slowly start to create narrative change. Like maybe we can do the artist calls and have it be honoring our ancestors, or things like that. Like I had those ideas in my head, like we're not going to be talking about colonization specifically, but we can create a platform where it's like surrounding, like this type of framework. And we can create the platform for the dialogue. So it was hard work. I was kind of happy that COVID happened, honestly, because that was when I really like tapped in so hard. I was like, no one was bothering me. No, I didn't have to go to any meetings. I was thriving, honey. I was like, yes, okay, no one called me. Tell you. And that's why a lot of, I think, amazing orgs started like 2021. I was like, oh, you're like you're the product of COVID too, of a COVID org. And so yeah, it started around that time. And then I was able to just like immerse myself through all the different books and how to start, if I should be an LLC or a nonprofit. And I remember one of my board members was like, you should just do fiscal sponsorship. So all of these things started to come into play. And when I created the board, a lot of the conversations were surrounding a nonprofit, because I had the idea of it just being like a traveling exhibition. We were going to have dialogue through the exhibitions itself, through the art itself. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be that. It was meant to be something bigger and, expand, because it was just like, I think the vision was bigger than this like container of like, this container I was creating it in. And once I tapped into community, they were just like, nah, we need some, this is bigger. So I was like, okay. And I listened to that, and it expanded through, mentorship, exhibitions, these educational art workshops. And now that I have like this beautiful young org of Pinays, we're trying to see how we can do like monthly offerings or monthly meetups. And, we have more bandwidth to, start creating things that are more mission aligned, because I think as I was moving through this, like I had like $100 to make my logo, right? And I just like poured the $100 in that. And then we had our first event, made like $1,000. And there were like, it was very grassroots. There was no money. It was just a vision. And it was like, and my why. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
$1 and a dream.
$1 and a dream.
Well, there's never money. There's never money to do the work.
You just got to do it. And when you're a creator, you get resourceful, and so yeah, it just grew. And shout out to Jenny Lynn Bailon, who got us connected to the Stop the Hate Fund in 2023 with Kathleen at the Santa Barbara, or the Fund for Santa Barbara. They gave us a $35,000 grant for 2 years, which helped give me a modest salary and also hire 2 assistants. So that really gave us the muscle to expand and grow these past 2 years, honestly.
I love that you're shouting out Jenny Lynn, because she's actually on the list to be interviewed. She's
Yes.
the next interview after you. So.
That's perfect. Yes.
So you're setting up the layup for the snap.
There we go. There we go. Yes. Yes. And so, it's fulfilling work, and it continues to really just charge me in a way where, I'm just so grateful for it.
Yeah, and I think you'd be able to tap into like what community used to be, right? Like you find a place where you're born into a place where there's people like elders that help you find your own spot, and that teach you the way things are, and that teach you tradition, that pass it on to you, and that connect you back to your ancestors, but helps you chart your own path. Like all of that, it's like the way that it used to be now. I feel like we're like pushed out into the world, especially from like a more Western um, tradition of just get them independent, like be on your own, go find yourself. Like it's like you are setting up people for disaster. Like that's not normal. That's not how our our bodies thrive. We need to be cradled for a long, long time, I don't think we ever stop needing that cradling of our community and support, and that like it takes a village. Like it like we were born in the village before, now we have to build a village too. Like it's crazy.
Exactly. We're holding so many roles, and yeah, I can see why a lot of people are exhausted and just like are giving up on hope. And so I think, coming back to the Bad Bunny performance, I think that really like resurrected a lot of us, and just like resuscitating our hearts in a way where it's like, yeah, what am I doing? Believe in myself, follow my purpose, and yeah, that performance was I still watch it too. I'm like watching all of the clips.
When he gave the Grammy to the little boy, which was supposed to be his inner child, I wanted to ask you, what would be your Grammy that you're giving to your inner child?
What would be my Grammy that I would give to my child?
Well, because we've worked on some stuff together, like we did the light box project, that was beautiful, but I don't know what are you feeling like is your...
I feel like it would be the Grammy for not shaming myself for being behind, because I feel like that's like something that I constantly felt, and I don't have to tell that story anymore. So I think that would be an inner child one that I'd heal from, and I would give myself a Grammy for. Because imagine if I was always thinking I was behind on something. I think at a point I would probably just like really give up on myself and just be like, I'm gonna just get a 9 to 5. It's cool. Like, I don't need to do all this.
Well, I think you're right on time. And that Philam Fiesta was Chef's Kiss.
Oh,
Like that was such beautiful community that joined
you.
for that. And I'm so happy I got to experience that and happy got to work on the Lightbox project with you. And just like anytime I get to be in your presence, it's a joy.
Thank you so much, Anna Lisa. I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, it honestly feels, Jen, I think you being able to successfully channel, and I hate the the idea of success, but I think you've been really able to channel like so many different worlds and um generations of knowledge that just live with you, right? Like I can feel it. They're like on your fingertips. They're like in the words that you choose, in the way that you talk, and I think just you being able to talk with us, but sharing that through PINAYSPHERE, like it just I I I think the community is so lucky to have you around. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I do not take any of those words lightly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rita.
I just gotta say, you have major aura, I think the kids say.
Uh,
Yes.
You had major or
Major aura.
major
Like
aura.
you just give healing vibes, like when I'm around you. Like some people try to fake the funk, but with you it's like authentic and natural.
Thank
I love
you.
that.
Thank you so much. It's like honestly, and I still feel like I'm barely shipping the surface with a lot of this work. And I feel like it's been such a long journey though, and just one that I'm still like snake year is still not over. I feel like I'm still shedding this year. This year's been rough.
Gotta
But
get ready for the horse.
saddle up on my straddle. But yeah, no, I feel like it's just been a long journey, and it's nice when it's a very sacred thing. It's not nice. It's a very sacred thing when you can be around a community where they see you, and you are wanting to hear the story, and you're giving me a platform to tell these stories, because I do feel like um it was a confidence that I worked really hard to have. And I think that people misunderstand the confidence with entitlement. And so I think it's nice to know. I think it's really beautiful when you can come to terms with that and know, like, this I worked hard for a certain level of confidence, so that way there's people who don't see me are stripping that from me and stripping me from my role, and I can show up for those who really really see the work that I'm trying to do. So I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Oh, and I think that's so true because in a world where you're constantly being stripped of like that confidence of like
Daily.
you have to build the layers and it has to be thick. Like you have to build so many layers. I don't think there's ever like stuff in the shedding, right? Because it's people are trying to take that away and question it and saying like who are you? Oh, you're new. Oh no, you've been here for too long. Oh, you said it right. No, you said it left. Oh, you're too in the middle. It's like you if you have an opinion, if you have an angle, you're always question and there people are trying to take those layers of confidence that you have to so intentionally build, right? And that's one thing I'm really happy about being like in my 30s is that those layers of confidence are intentionally built every day. There are days where I feel like extremely like I feel the lows and I feel like, oh, like these things didn't pan out, this didn't work out, and I have to rebuild that, internally and show up and um but how does that feel with you, Jen? Like what does it look like for you? Is it meditation? Is it community work? Like when do you refill that? When do you add more layers? When do you recharge?
I think I recharge. Okay, first and foremost, during my luteal phase, for sure. Like, I lock myself in the room. I'm like, babe, it's that time. Okay. Put it, everybody has it on the calendar. Cycle syncing is so real. Please, everybody who's listening that
Yeah.
relates to that, cycle syncing. And then also just knowing when a big project is coming up, when I know that my schedule is about to get really busy, that's when I sit the most. That's when I come into my garden or I bring out my bowls. Um, for some reason, my body automatically knows like phases of the moon. I'm just like, oh yeah. So like I'll be outside during a full moon, or I'll also be outside if I feel like it's Sunday. Sunday, I don't know, my body's just really, really connected to Sunday. I'm always out here. Um and it took a lot because I wasn't always a good meditator, and I hated meditation. I was just like, I can't sit still. Like, how do you expect me to do this with all this anxiety? And I met this woman, Terry, who created a place of peace in Ventura, and she did like these free sound baths. I think it was like right before Mayari was born, like 2013, 2014. And I just remember her holding space for the community every Sunday and would do these sound bowls. And she would walk us through like a visualization, which was another form of meditation. It wasn't like the silent type of meditation. And so I remember really being able to do it. Like I would do it for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, I was really tapped into that. And I don't know if it was the combination of sound and the visualization, like seeing the visuals that she was speaking of. And then also grounding with the sounds energetically. But it did something to my body and I kept coming back. Like me and my kids, my husband, we would go every Sunday. Like that was my church. Because I grew up Catholic, but then I didn't connect to that as I was doing my decolonial work because it didn't make any sense. And so I was and my husband, he wasn't doing he came from Jehovah's Witness, but he wasn't really practicing as heavily either. So yeah, it was like a perfect fitting because we were both like trying to find our own footing in the way in that way. And so he and I would both do practice, we would both do the visualization and the meditation, but he would knock out and I would kind of nudge him because I'm just like, you're snoring. And then Terry would be like, you know, if, and that's where I learned that if you do fall asleep during sound, that's what you need. Your body actually is like recalibrating itself and you're still receiving. Because I know a lot of people feel bad. Like a lot of my clients, they're like, I knocked out. I'm so sorry. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, actually it is. Like your body needed, it just needed to reset in that way and just release itself and just let go. And my husband would just drop in, but I was just like very much in tuned to the sound and the visualization. Like I would just like astral project. I would go on these journeys. And I just remember how powerful they were. And so it became my own medicine. You know, she would train me, she would teach me like what all the sounds meant and what bowls resonated with which group. Sometimes, you know, one bowl will connect with somebody who may be dealing with grief. Like sometimes you'll be playing, you know, the heart chakra bowl more often than the crown. And sometimes when I'm around a bunch of artists, like I'll want to play the crown more because like that has a lot to do with your channel of intuition and higher frequency. And so yeah, like when I was learning all of that, I was like, this is so amazing. And I was just immersed in it. I didn't want to like, I wasn't quick to like teach it to anybody. It was just like my own sacred practice for a couple years. And that helped me. That again, in collaboration with like clinical therapy, that helped a lot with my motherhood too. And so now it's become something that is fully embodied where, you know, I'm practicing my meditation. Like I offer it 3 times a week on a BIPOC app for 20 minutes. And then like I've been doing that for 3 years and it's just beautiful. Like the community just comes and it's slowly just, you know, making its mark as I move. I'm like, wow, everybody's kind of connecting to all these different expressions. You know, and I didn't mention this, but I found out that I was neurodivergent, like my ADHD like I think last year. And so that
No way.
also, yeah, that also like informed a lot of how I moved because I was just like, gosh, like I'm so scatterbrained. I have all these different things. Like, why am I so multidisciplinary in this way? But it's like it works for somebody like me, you know, like I don't think I would thrive if I chose one thing because it's like I have too many things I want to express, you know.
I haven't been officially diagnosed, but I told Rita about the same thing that I feel like I'm ADHD too.
You haven't,
Rita's
yeah.
like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, I don't
So like
know.
I'll diagnose that.
Oh, I'm so happy you found that, Jen, because Rosa, you should also get diagnosed because once you like start exploring the world of like it's a category, right? But once you start connecting, like, oh, that's why, like,
Yeah, it's deep.
that's why you were like named like the ditcher, you know, like that's why, like that makes sense. Like I was connecting when you were telling that story because not in high school, I don't know how I did high school. I think or middle school and high school. I think I was in educational setting that really vibe with my brain, the way that they structure the classes. I don't know what it was. I don't know what was happening there, how they did that. But in college, I struggled a lot. And there was one time where I remember a teacher, my chemistry teacher, was looking for me down the hallways. And because I had never gone to a class. And she was like screaming my name, like, Rita Casaverde, does anyone know Rita Casaverde? And I had to like hide because I hadn't been to any of the classes. And, I would just go to like the test because I just couldn't bring myself to get to the class. And that was just one of the many classes that I just couldn't get my body to like get there.
Right there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I couldn't explain it. Like it wouldn't make sense if I put it into words to people. They would be like, "Oh, you're just not waking up early," or "You're no." And I was like, "No, like if you put this in a formula, it should work, but it just doesn't work for me." And I didn't realize until I was diagnosed too with ADHD, maybe like 10 years ago. And that journey has been so beautiful too, because now I'm able to see other people's brains as like, oh, we don't all have the same brain. This is like how your brain works, and this is how
Right.
you interpret words and the world. It's
Mhm.
such a journey on its own.
Yeah, I love that. I'm happy that you found out 10 years ago. And so you've been discovering a lot of the ways that your brain moves and how we're wired. We're all wired so differently. And I think when I didn't know, yeah, again, there's so much shame in like why why you're moving in the way that you're moving. How come you're not doing things in this way? Like this person, there's like all this comparison. And it's like I have a superpower. I have a superpower. My son's ADHD too got diagnosed in 2022. And so it helps me as well because I'm now educating myself specifically for that diagnosis and you can see how different people move. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's so helpful.
and that's like kind of a sad thing though that I've heard more and more. We just had we've had a Women of Color network, and we had a gathering, and two women of color who are mothers mentioned that they got diagnosed while their kid was getting diagnosed. So like
Hmm.
they joined that process and they were diagnosed too. But in women of color, I think those, that diagnosis happens way later. So it's like a disservice to like our own mental health or us understanding our own, brains, the ways that we work in a world where already we're so misunderstood and
I
people
know, yeah.
translate what we're trying to say, even though we're speaking the same languages. It's like, no, I didn't say that. Like, no, don't change the words that I just put out there. And so it's like we're constantly, being mislabeled and misunderstood. That the fact that we're able to take that on and like get agency out of that diagnosis is like so important. I really wish we were doing it more for more women of color.
I
Uh,
agree. I agree. Yeah, if anybody's out there creating spaces for neurodivergent minds that are women of color or just BIPOC in general, please reach out because I love that. I'm an advocate for that. And you were saying something about yeah, like mislabeled and misinformed, very much so, like all throughout my childhood into my adulthood and just like all this over explaining, for nothing because you're like no, that's just it's how my brain works and there's no yeah, there's no ill intent in the way that that's expressed. But yeah, as a neurodivergent, I feel like a lot of how it's received is often misinterpreted. Yeah.
Yeah, and even like timekeeping and schedules and all
Oh
that.
my
It,
God.
it, it comes from like also like a very capitalist production driven background, like just even having clocks around, like all of that comes from a very production heavy history. So us walking away from it and like our own natural bodies not assimilating, to that concept, like it's actually good. Like we're holding that,
We
resistance.
did that.
So you're welcome. I'm
You're
like
welcome.
I'm passing it on my DNA. I'm holding on to the
Right.
natural thing, like the alternative of like always being on time or keeping like yourself stressed about it, and that becoming your personality. That is actually a disservice to humankind. So, we're good. You're good, Jen. You're good in my books.
You too. And you too, Ana Rosa. As a
Well,
newcomer.
yes. Since we're in our last 2 minutes, it's been so lovely talking to you, but I want to see, is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to share in these last couple minutes with our audience?
No, I feel like this was so lovely. This was probably one of my favorite conversations. It was very light and easy and just it touched on just a lot of parts of myself that I am happy to get really vulnerable about because I think it's really important. So yeah, thank you. There's nothing else to share here. We covered it all.
Oh, I'm so lucky to have met Ana Rosa, and I don't know, I don't even remember when I met Ana Rosa, but the minute we were in the same room, we just like came together, like we are sitting
Oh,
together forever. So it's so
how do we
nice.
compliment one another? I love this. It felt really safe and welcoming.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
if I lived in San Luis Obispo, I'd be in your house every day.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, why aren't you?
I'm supposed to do something in San Luis Obispo for May. I think we're doing an art exhibition at Cal Poly.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
So
Check it out.
we should go make a trip. Yeah, come along and
Yeah, let
share
us
about
know.
it.
Let us know what we'll promote it and highlight it and celebrate it.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Rita.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Thank
Jen.
Vanessa.
Thank you, Rita.
thank you both. This was lovely.
I agree.
Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. See you
Yeah.
next time.
In the
Bye.
next episode. Bye.